Today we are going to be listening to some Slayer. It'll be the first time I've really listened to them. I did do a reaction on my YouTube channel. God, it was probably like 2 years ago. And I honestly don't remember what songs we did, but this one is going to be different because we are going to be listening to their EP from 1984, Haunting the Chapel, as well as their album Rain and Blood from 1986. They're one of the first thrash metal bands. They're a part of the Big Four. I honestly feel like Slayer was very influential in inspiring a lot of the death metal bands that we know of because of their imagery and their lyricism, and just, you look at their logo is so death metal in comparison to Metallica, for example. Haunting in the Chapel. I like the build-up already. I like that walk down. Nice! Woo. Ooh! My God! And it's still going. It's such a long crescendo ending. Dude, the production on that was actually so nasty, though. It was so good. Okay, so who's the lead singer? It's Tom. Is it Aria? He sounds great on this EP. I don't think that, the version we're listening to is a, remaster. So, literally the production sounds so good, and Tom sounds amazing. Oh my gosh, there's Carrie King. Okay, cool. So I know Carrie King just released an album too, which y'all will have to let me know what your thoughts are on that, on Carrie King's new album, because I heard some mixed reviews. Super solid, great riffs. Tom sounds amazing. I really love just the chuggy riff, and like I said at the beginning of the stream, it's you can definitely hear some of the death metal influence. It's obviously rooted in thrash metal, but I can hear some elements that I could see death metal bands now being yeah, I listened to Slayer and got my inspiration from it. So really like it. Love the walk down in the chorus. This next one's called Captor of Sin on side B. Already starting off with a banger. Chuggy. Yeah. Come on, give me a solo. Dude, this is fire. I've been 100% sleeping on Slayer for sure. Haunting the Chapel, the title track now. Woo! That was pretty fire. Great scream. And then it just ends like that. Just ends like a little fart in the wind. I got Slayer stank face. I do. Girl, my brain is blown, actually. I cannot believe that this is just the second album, technically, that they have. Bro, they were so confident in their sound, they just knew they didn't need to have a demo or an EP before they released Show No Mercy. And they're okay, yeah, we released our debut, now let's just put out, Haunting the Chapel. It'll be fine, and this just slaps. It absolutely slaps. There's literally nothing else to describe it other than that. Talk about satanic panic. The PMRC was freaking out. Yeah, I wonder freaking why. Are you kidding me? This probably blew Miss whatever her face was. What's that dude's name? Al Gore? Tipper Gore? This album probably absolutely blew Tipper Gore's mind off. Her head just went, Rain and Blood will beat you into submission. That was an amazing EP. And it's short and sweet. It's only 13 minutes. 13:27. Like I've mentioned, production is great. And I love the just old school kind of reverb sound. because obviously the way they recorded records back then, so much different than how they record them now. But just that raw energy that they have, it's just brutal. And the last two tracks too, Captor of Sin and Haunting the Chapel, really build up nicely. You know, they start off with a kind of a lot of energy, but they build up. And the choruses are great. That solo for Haunting the Chapel was out of this world. It was just, he was like fingering that thing like a fiddle. And I also like how tight the band is, but also how messy is not the right word, but it's just got that raw sound, you know? So it's like they sound tight, but they're okay with having a little bit of, they're okay not having it be like absolutely perfect in sound. And you heard that with the solo, like the end of the solo for, is it Carrie King? I guess Carrie's probably the one that did the solo for Haunting the Chapel. So you could hear that with Carrie's solo, I'm just assuming. At the end of it, he just like leaves off. You can hear him like taking his finger off of the guitar, which some producers might be like, okay, like let's have you kind of redo that section, punch in and fix that, you know? It's just crazy to me thinking about the like history of thrash metal and just metal as a whole. But it is so mind-blowing to think about how influential Metallica was during that time period, and really how they were one of the first bands to do it, first heavy metal thrash metal bands to do it, and Slayer is right up there with them. Get into Rain and Blood, which was released October 7th 1986. This is their this was their third full-length album, which is also crazy to think about. So 3 years in the music industry. They had their EP Haunting the Chapel. Second album, Hell Awaits, was also on Metal Blade, so I'm assuming Rain and Blood is actually with Def Jam Recordings, which is interesting. When I think Def Jam, I think hip-hop and rap. I don't think Slayer. But again, we're talking about early 80s, like Def Jam had literally just started in 1982, right around the same time as Metal Blade, from Santa Monica, California, so it makes sense. Obviously, they're a baby label at this point, you know? Get into Angel of Death. Riffage! Okay, King Diamond. So much riffage. Banger. I like the panning. That's nice though. Fire. Absolute fire. I loved the battle between the guitar solos. Did you notice the panning? You had one that was like much thinner and a little bit more like layered here. And then you had the other one that was a little bit higher up in the mix, but placed like right here. So it was a nice little battle. Oh, and I also loved the way he held out that note. And we got a little drum solo too. Love, love, love when bands show some love to their drummers and their bass players. Too many times, just bands do not highlight their bass player and their drummers. They don't give them solos. You know, they don't let them do their thing. It's always guitar solos. Not saying it's a bad thing. Oh, yeah, I can tell a difference with the production too, because it's not as raw sounding. And it could be too that the first EP, obviously Haunting the Chapel, is more of a cassette. You know, it was basically probably only done as a cassette, in which case somebody ripped the sound off of that, obviously. I think just recorded in a better studio. It's not as like raw sounding, or echoey. It doesn't have as much reverb around everything, but it's still good. Quickly, I'm going to look up at the lineup. Okay, so we're still dealing with the same boys. We're still dealing with the same guys. We still have Dave, Tom on vocals. Okay, so Tom also plays bass. Cool. And then Jeff Henneman. How did Jeff die? Yeah. Stage 4 liver disease. Boof. It's part of the reason why I stopped drinking. I saw my grandfather deal with really bad alcoholism. I feel like most legendary metalheads deal with alcoholism. I mean, that's how we lost Alexi. I know that James Hetfield went to rehab for alcoholism. Like, we're going to get into the second song, piece by piece. So let's get into it. God, the riffage, dude. Come on, Dave. He's like rapping, girl. Damn. We're gonna get into necrophobic because it's short. My God, he's rapping. A little frill. Woo. I like that. That is like a straight up death metal song. He is like full blown rapping in this too. I guess, you know, that's your ticket into Def Jam. They're like, yeah, we'll sign you to Def Jam, bestie, but you know, in order for you to like release an album with us, you have to rap a little bit. This is absolutely 100% necrophobic, is 1,000% a death metal song. I just love how short and sweet this song is. More albums need to be like within the 28-minute to like 33-minute pocket. We are getting way too comfortable with 45-minute, 55-minute albums. This song is so good. Definitely death metal, ripping apart, severing flesh, gouging eyes, tearing limb from limb, like lyrics. Possessed and Slayer are absolutely like bands that I think just inspire the death metal bands that we have now, even though people technically say that Possessed is thrash metal, and realistically I think Slayer could be considered, they could pass as an early death metal band, because death metal's not, old school death metal is not that far off from thrash metal, at least in my opinion. We're gonna get into the next two songs because they're short and sweet. We've got Altar of Sacrifice, so let's get into that. Great riff. Nice drum fill. Yes. God. Why are we slowing down? Ooh, we're slowing down, girl. Wait, it goes right into Jesus Saves? Wait, I love that. Ooh. Oh my God. We're rapping again. Oh my God. I'm literally, girl, like, shooketh to the core. That's what the cool kids are saying, right? I'm going through a spiritual journey. Bro, that might be one of the best song transitions I've ever heard. I love when bands do that, because they slowed it down halfway through in Altar of Sacrifice. I was like, ooh, we're slowing down. You don't even hear the transition, dude. It is so subtle and so smooth. Shooketh to the chorus. I do kind of wish, and this is super nitpicky, but I do wish that he kind of repeated this, Jesus saves, Jesus saves, or something like that. Like, that is just so catchy, and I kind of wish that there was a little bit more, like, backing vocals to that or something. They might do something like that live or something, but I just think it'd be so cool to have it more as, like, a chant, like, Jesus saves. But then, like, after that, girl, it is like, blah, 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 blah. I don't know how he does that. I do like also how the beginning song of side A, Angel of Death, is over 4 minutes. And then also the ending song, Raining Blood, is also over 4 minutes and is like the longest song on the record. So I'm assuming that that was like a choice. But I really like how they leave all of the stuff in the middle to be a short little sweet song. So everything else is just kind of padding it. You know, it's like a sandwich. It's a slam-wich. A slam-wich. I like that. All right, let's get into Criminally Insane. And we're going to also jump into Reborn. So let's get into it. Oh, that's not how they open up side B. Electric guitar battle. Woo! Then they bring it back. Fire! Fire, fire, fire. Reborn. How does he do that? Come on, Jeff Gann! Dude. And then it just ends like... Then it just ends like... I cannot begin to tell you how mind-blowing this album is to listen to after probably like 2 years since the last Slayer reaction, knowing like what all of Cannibal Corpse sounds like and all of Metallica sounds like now, and what they're doing with the drums in that song is so freaking simple. It is so simple. It's just doom, doom, you know. I'm assuming it's a tom and the kick, little cymbal taps, and the reverb on the cymbal. And they bring it back too in the bridge, and it's so simple. And I almost want it to like go ba 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 ba, but they don't do that. They prevent from giving it to you. So I don't know, for me it makes me yearn for that, you know. All right, we got 3 more songs. I'm thinking we're just gonna let it roll. Oh, we got a song here. It's called Epidemic or Epidemic. I don't know why I added an O. It ain't an O. Riff Edge. What is that? Woo. Drum fill. Love it. Love the riff. Let's get into post-mortem. Feel a build-up. God. That guitar tone. Thunderstorm sound effects. Yes! Okay, so we have listened to this song, Raining Blood, but the absolute flow going into this song, you've got to be kidding me. Ugh, the riff. Fire. Fire, fire, fire. God. God. Bring back the main riff. A version of it. Yes, and then they just cut it to the thunderstorm, which is kind of a jump scare in itself. If I have one complaint about that song, about this record, is I wish that they would have made that transition just a little cleaner. Just a little bit, you know? So that's my only complaint, is I wish they could have made it just a little bit cleaner. But, I mean, I do kind of like that it almost sounds like cymbals or like a drum, like a final, you know, because it's like the thunderclap. I have no words. Yeah, it kind of sounds like a drum crash, you know. So I like it. I like the idea behind it. I do just wish it was a little bit smoother. I never realized that the transition was that freaking good. Now, I'm kind of mind blown right now between like post-mortem and Raining Blood, because I was like, ooh, they brought in like this raining sound effect. I don't know if the raining sound effect came right when Raining Blood started or if it started just a little bit before. What I think is really great about this album, and I've mentioned before, is just the pacing of it. It's very short and sweet. It doesn't overstay its welcome. The songs are fast. They're brutal. They're produced really well. You can tell there's a little bit of a more polished sound in the recording versus the Metal Blade stuff. There's not as much reverb, but it doesn't sound like, if you can't even have an album from this decade, sound overproduced or too clean. So it's definitely better quality, but it's brutal. It's absolutely a brutal album. Definite early death metal vibes for sure, even though their roots are in thrash metal. I love Necrophobic. I think that that's such a great short and sweet song. Angel of Death I thought was really great. I love the use of both Jeff and Kerry King, just, you know, almost like excuse me, almost like arguing with their guitars. Just the back and forth is so nice. They're just writing these songs and they're just letting the riffs speak for themselves. They're just letting the music do the music. I wish that he would explore his higher register just a little bit more. He might in the next few records or even in previous ones. We got a few higher notes, especially with I think Angel of Death. He opened up with a higher note that very much reminded me of King Diamond. What I do appreciate about Slayer is that they never were picked up by a major record label, and they kind of stayed true to the smaller stuff, you know? I mean, they were with American for a really long time, which I don't think... American is not a big label. I mean, I guess it is. I guess Def American. I mean, they're really only known for, bro, Danzig. That's like it. And like Slayer. Just a bunch of Slayer and Danzig. That's like all they're known for. I guess Lamb of God. Oh, and they did Children of Bodom. They did a couple Children of Bodom stuff. Okay. Okay. Soundgarden. Okay, so they're... And Machine Head and Mastodon. Okay, so... they're with a metal... and kind of rock grunge label that does do some bigger stuff, but even then, like, they really only published shit for Slayer and Danzig. Like, the reason why I say they didn't, like, get picked up, or, like, I guess you could even say they sold out to a bigger label, it's not their fault if they do get the interest of these bigger labels and sign to one of them, because the thing is like, that is something you see with so many of these classic bands, is they get picked up by the major record labels once they see that they can, like, we could own the music rights to this band and basically make infinite profit off of you for decades to come. And that's essentially what happened with Ozzy Osbourne, and that's what happened with, like, Black Sabbath. Metallica's another big example. I mean, they signed with a huge record label, like 3 albums into their career, 2 albums within their career. Whereas like Slayer, they stayed relatively small. They stayed with American, and they were signed to Nuclear Blast, which is of course a mostly they're a big record label. I'm not saying these are small record labels, but there's a massive difference between Nuclear Blast, Napalm, Century Media, Metal Blade, and Warner Brother Music. I've contemplated doing a, deep dive into Slayer, and talking more about them and, like, actually diving through their whole discography and whatever. So I'll probably do it eventually, especially because Rain and Blood is just so good. So I hope you had a wonderful time listening to these albums with me. Again, was Haunting the Chapel EP from 1984. And then their third album, Rain and Blood, from 1986. So if you're interested in streaming those again, they are free on YouTube, just in case you didn't know. I'm super excited that we finally got to really dive into Slayer. I've been sleeping on them. Let me know down below in the comments if you want me to do a Slayer deep dive. Yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, okay?